Hi, I'm Jason.
Hi, I'm Jenny. Welcome back to Grace by the Drop. Today, we are just going to jump right back into it, and we're going to start talking about the gift of exhortation. Stay tuned.
So I think Jenny's decided that we're going to do gifts for both videos this week.
Yes.
Because we've been away for a little while and we don't have any questions right now.
Right?
So we need you guys to put new questions down in the comments so that we have questions to go off of. But this week you're going to get gifts for both videos.
Right.
And in this video, we're talking about exhortation.
Da, 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 da. Exhortation, the biggest thing about it that you need to know, it is building up each other. Building
That's
up
it.
someone else in the body of Christ or not in the body of Christ. It's also an opportunity to love someone and to share. Well, I guess I could say allows the opportunity to share the gospel of Christ with somebody else.
That's it right there. Now remember, we're talking about gifts. So these are supernaturally above and beyond our normal ability to lift people up. That's what the gift of exhortation is.
Right. It's the gift of awesome sauce.
And we're talking about motivational gifts. So we talked in a couple videos ago that motivational gifts are those gifts from the Father that are in you from the moment you're born. Mm-hmm. And so this is more of a personality type. It is supernatural. It is of God. It is a gift. You don't get to own it.
Nope.
He could take it away if he wants. But for the most part, it's a personality type. And you know these people. They're the people that are high energy and they build you up and they make you feel better every time they're in the room.
Well, I would hope so, and not to gloat over here, but I'm just like, they're the people that when you're having a bad day will get in your face and tell you, you're doing a great job.
So let's talk about the attributes of exhortation.
Yes.
We've kind of already talked about a little bit of the attributes. They tend to be very high energy people that build up the church. They build up the individuals and they build up the church as a whole.
Or just people that see the details where others not overlook it. It's just, as we said, not their area of gifting, but they tend to notice the little things that people do and are able to acknowledge that for them. And it's not like somebody's asking for that.
Right.
You know, when you're serving, we don't do that. No, because we're just doing what God called us to do in the moment. But exhortation gives that little extra special sauce to let someone know how much you appreciate what they've done, whether it was for you or somebody else. It's really encouraging for the body to share and compliment those kinds of things. Doesn't mean we have to, but it's really good to do.
People with the gift of exhortation tend to be very high energy. They tend to lighten the room. They also tend to remember morale when everybody else is focusing on the work.
Ooh.
They tend to go, how are the people feeling? When we're like, no, we need to get the job done. And they're like, but how are the people feeling that are getting the job done?
Right, because right now you kind of look like you need a break.
Yeah. Do they have enough Gatorade? Do we need to bring in some snacks?
Right, because you're looking stressed out.
Or, and especially we see this in a lot of churches, how are the volunteers doing? I know that they've been doing the same volunteer job for 17 years and no one's ever said thank you. Maybe we could do something for them.
We've been in churches like that, sadly, and those are a little disheartening. And honestly, it really kind of makes me sad because I can be an exhorter when God calls me to personally, but not always. But it's really kind of nice for other people to hear like, hey, you're doing a good job. We see what you're doing. And we really appreciate it. And the people, like greeters at the door, is always my first kind of go-to. Sorry, y'all. It's not like I don't recognize other servants. I do. It's just they're the front line.
Right.
That receives people when they first walk into the church. And you want to be able to tell them like, hey, thanks. You make people feel welcome and encouraged. And when you ask, hey, how you doing today? I'm so glad you're here. You mean it. How are you doing today? I am so glad you're here. When you say that, they know when you mean it.
They feel your meaning.
Exactly.
Yeah. I can't talk about exhortation without talking about our son, Gibson.
Oh my word.
Because exhortation is one of his primary gifts.
We noticed it first when I would fold laundry. I was folding socks and Gibson, he's like, Mom, what are you doing? I was like, hey buddy. I was like, folding socks. What are you doing? And he was like, watching you fold socks. You know what, Mom? You're the best sock folder ever.
Yep. And
at 4 years old. And I was like, thanks, dude. That's awesome.
And he did the same thing to me. I'd be reading a book and, Dad, what are you doing? I'm reading a book, son. You're the best book reader I've ever seen, Dad. Like, nobody reads books as good as you do. That's exhortation. All he wanted to do was make our day a little brighter.
Right.
Make our day with a little bit more joy, a little bit more light.
Well, and it also gave us an opportunity to spend time with him too. I want to address that on the parenting side of things.
Right.
That was also him saying like, hey, you got time for me? Of course I got time for you. In fact, after we got done folding the socks, we had a sock throwing party.
So let's talk about the assets. In these videos, we've said that we're going to talk about the attributes, the assets, and the liabilities.
Yes.
So let's talk about the assets.
Yes.
Well, the first one is esprit de corps and morale. Like, they lift up the morale of the people who are doing the work. That's very clearly one of the assets of the gifts. The next one is that they often, because of the way that they encourage people and exhort people, they help those people find their own value or God's value in them.
Oh, yeah, because they can have bad days too.
Right.
Like I was saying, if they look like they're kind of stressed out, taking that time to encourage, be an encouragement to them and to say thank you. Sometimes it also allows them an opportunity to be like, well, thanks, man. It's just been a really rough week. Well, yeah, tell me what's going on. You know, stuff like that.
And also when people don't feel like they're fitting in.
Ooh.
Exhorters are really good about being like, well, but you're so good at X, Y, Z. And they're like, oh, and they're like, oh, well, that goes with this ministry over here.
Right.
And they help people find their gifts. They help people realize the value and the worth that they have.
Our friend Teresa, she's really cool about it. This woman remembers things that I just, like, how do you remember all of that stuff? She has so much going on. She's always giving of herself to other people. And yet she'll remember the tiniest detail. And I'm just going to be honest here, and she's probably going to laugh when she sees this. But we went over to their house for dinner. It was great. Friends hung out. It was awesome. Jason comes out of the bathroom, and yes, clearly he washed his hands because he goes, man, I really like that soap, Teresa. And she goes, oh, okay, well, all right, thanks. And that was the end of it. Months later, she is, her and her husband are meeting us for lunch. I think it was lunch. And anyway, we get together and she's got this cute little kitchen towel wrapped around this thing. And I was like, I mean, this is months later, like 6 months later. And anyway, we unwrap it and she's got the soap in there. She goes, well, Jason said he liked it. I was like, oh.
I had forgotten about it completely.
Yeah. How do you remember stuff like that? And he did. He loved this soap.
It was phenomenal.
Yeah. But there's people like her out there that do these types of things. And no, she didn't do it for personal recognition or anything. It was just a kindness to someone else.
To lift somebody else up.
Exactly.
So another asset of exhortation is that not only do they help people find their own value, they often, especially in evangelism or when they're being used to talk to someone who's struggling, can help people find the value in God. Yes. Because they're able to exhort God because of that attitude. They're like, oh no, let me tell you how awesome God is. Like, let me tell you where you fit in and how good he is and how much value he has. And so that's another asset, is that excitement, that enthusiasm that they bring can also lift up people's understanding of God.
All right, guys, one of the things that we're going to go over now are I say responsibilities, but liabilities that come along with it, because every gift has responsibilities and you need to be able to balance them all properly, right? So having a balanced understanding of the gifts, how they work, and the negative side potentially of them, and how that can affect you, so you can recognize it, stop it, prevent it, whatever.
One of the first liabilities is that people can come off as fake.
Yes.
Most people with the gift of exhortation are high energy. We've already talked about that. They tend to be like, yeah, let's go do it. But if you have people who are really mellow.
Scary, what you just did.
I know. And if you have people who are really mellow, that high energy comes off as being fake. Like, nobody's that way. Nobody's that excited all the time. Yeah, there are people who are that excited all the time. I was
going to say, like, babe, seriously. Like, there really are. I'm like, we've seen those people. Okay.
I feel like I'm one of those people. I usually am very high energy.
Well, when you're teaching, yes.
Right. But the problem is that when I find people who are low energy, I have to somewhat mirror their energy.
I see.
Or I'm just coming off as fake and just pouring it on, and they're like, yeah, right, whatever.
Well, and then it's overwhelming to them too. You're never going to reach them or be able to work together in the body if you're just like super crazy up here and everybody else is. It's okay to build their morale up, but make sure you build it up in a way that's meeting each other in the middle.
Exactly. Yeah, you just meet them and build it up. We're not asking you not to have a lot of energy. We're saying read the room, right?
Right.
If you want to be effective with people and you truly want to exhort them, if you're going to try to exhort them and they're going to think you're fake, then you're not exhorting them.
And I'm terrible about reading a room. I'm just going to say, there are so many times where I'm walking, I'm like, hey guys, what's that? And I'm like, crickets. Okay. It's one of those things, and I'm like, okay, I'm reading the room now.
Another liability of the gift of exhortation is that people can overlook sin so that they're getting people to understand acceptance and love. Like, we want these people to feel lifted up and edified and loved and accepted,
Right.
but they're sinning, like they're straight up sinning, and we don't call them on it. You can have someone that comes to you with a sin, and they're like, well, here's my sin. And the person with the gift of exhortation might go, well, that doesn't matter, because we love and accept it. And they minimize sin where they should go, yeah, you're right, that you absolutely are sinning, but let me tell you how good God is.
Right.
Right? They minimize the sin rather than accept the sin, call it for what it is, and then maximize God's goodness and love.
By referring them to scriptures, prayer,
Right.
and walking with them.
The last liability for the gift of exhortation is that if you're not rooted in truth, if you're not in Jesus, you might end up exhorting sin or evil.
And that's super not okay. You don't want to do that. Of course, nobody would want to who's truly following God and being a true believer or learning, especially people that just get saved. Some churches out there don't really, I don't want to say they don't encourage the sanctification process, but they don't fully explain it or have steps in place. They're just like, hey man, get in here, get involved, get set up. Well, we all know in our sanctification process, we may still sin and do things we don't mean to do, or things we may not recognize ourselves. But if
or like Paul, things we don't want to do that we still do.
Exactly, and we're just like,
Like all the liabilities for all the gifts that we're going to talk about, the way to stop the liabilities is to ensure that you're focused on Christ.
Yes.
The thing that you exhort, if you're an exhorter, if you have the gift of exhortation, should be holy things, good things, true things, lovely things. And if we're not in those things, we can end up exhorting things that are not that.
Right.
We can build up in other people's minds and other people's hearts idols, really, that are not that.
Yeah, you're going to serve somebody.
You're going to serve somebody. That's it. We can turn the video off. We're done. You're going to serve somebody. And if your exhortation is not serving him, it will serve other men, you, the enemy, whatever. I hope we've made it simple and clear, the gift of exhortation. If you have any questions about that, please put those questions down in the comments below. And don't forget to ask questions for next week that aren't about the gifts.
Yes. Please also ensure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for future notifications. If you would like to support Grace by the Drop, please go to gracebythedrop.com or check out our Patreon page in the description below.
We'll see you in the next video.
Bye. And Gibson won. He goes, oh, you're supposed to fall down, Mom.
You fell down.
I did. I fell down. I was like, oh, you got me, you got me. Exhortation is excitement. Always, always glory to the Father. Da, 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 da.
I knew she was going to do that.
Sorry. That's why I was like, what? And I was just like, I had the word in my head. Poop. Angry baby. Throwing things.